Hello and welcome to Spotlight on Education. I'm Dr. Jon Kopko, Superintendent of the East Brunswick Public Schools and your host for the program. Today I'm in the studio with Mr. Paul Cohen. Paul is our newly appointed Supervisor of Social Studies and Media Services. Paul, I'd like to say welcome to you.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be discussing the role that technology plays in secondary school social studies, and I'm wondering if you could provide the audience with a brief overview of how we use technology in social studies.
Sure. During the year, we've had an aggressive program to incorporate technology into the teaching of social studies. It's taken on many different aspects. One is using the laser disc in the teaching of social studies. This is important because it allows for students to be able to visualize what they see, and it helps with students who have different learning styles than just reading. A second reason is that it permits teachers to correlate the visuals with the curriculum that they have, and they've spent time doing that. We also use the Laserdisc with another program called MediaMax, which allows teachers to manipulate the computer and add, as we'll see later, add questions or text to pictures, and this way helps students focus on what's important. We've been using CD-ROMs as well, both in the social studies classes, we'll see later also in CD Atlas and in other programs, as well as in the Media Center to help access information. So we've been using different kinds of technology to improve the social studies teaching in the curriculum.
Why is it so important for our students to have access to technology in conjunction with the social studies program?
Well, I think it's real important because, first of all, much of the information that's now coming out is coming out over either internet or through CD access. And so for students to have a wide variety of information in order for them to critically think and make all sorts of good judgment and opinions about what's happening in our world, they need to have at their hands all the information that's necessary. And I believe that the technology is one way of doing that.
Paul, now let's discuss some specific lessons involving technology. I know we have tapes of Hammarskjold Middle School, Churchill Junior High School, and also East Brunswick High School. Can you tell us a little bit about the activities that we'll be viewing?
Sure. First at Hammarskjold, we'll be visiting two classes. Mrs. Byges' class, where students will be reviewing information that they've already learned using the laser disc, and you will see that Mrs. Byges has added questions and information to the laser disc. This is a way for students to review what they've learned, and they find it really extremely interesting. Then we'll see in Mrs. Zimbicki's class a group of students working at the computer using the CD-ROM Atlas program, in which they will look at different countries in Africa, look at life expectancy and educational levels of learning, and then they will develop graphs from the computer based on that. Then we'll go to the Churchill, where Mrs. McCormick's class will be presenting their performance assessment. Prior to this, they already researched and wrote a technologically based paper using the computer CD-ROMs in order to access the information, and basically having a split screen where they wrote their notes on the computer at the same time. Then they generated a final research paper using the technology notes that they wrote. So that's the first time that the entire process of research has been done only on the computer. After that, we'll be going to the high school where Mr. Saroka's class will be looking at the laser disc and the Centennial program. I think it's really exciting to see what's going on in the classrooms.
Great, let's look at those tapes now.
All right, today we're going to work on an activity using the MediaMax, and it's going to look at the geography of China and also the information that you've gathered on the Sui dynasty from Chapter 8, Lesson 1. Now, for this assignment, you may use your notes only, okay? And you will recall that we've done something like this before. I'm going to give one sheet of paper to every two people this time, all right, to you and your partner. Put both of your names on the paper. Then I'm going to show you some things on the screen. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to respond on the sheet. First, next to number 1, what type of map is illustrated in this picture? Remember, we've looked at various types of maps. Is it a physical map, a political map, a land use map? What type of map is this? Go ahead, you can talk it over. You can look through your notes. Write down what you think. Next to number 1. Then next to number 1A, you should answer the question on the screen. Describe China using the theme of relative location. Next picture. Okay, what do we see? What's in the picture? Can you make it out? Anybody figure out what that is? Okay, yeah, it's a mountain range. Well, it's a particular mountain and there are some mountain climbers on it. The question is, for number 2, what is the name of the landform that divides China into north and south? What particular landform divides China into north and south? That's number 2. Now, number 3 asks you, don't get to this question yet, but this is a painting of a river valley in China. Okay, that illustrates a river valley. Question number 3 asks, name the 2 major rivers that run through China. And then, what would the advantage be to living in a river valley? Okay, this is a picture of a tomb. Now the question asks, who is the person buried in this tomb? Now I'm going to give you a clue. The person buried in this tomb was the founder of a particular Chinese philosophy, which today is considered a minor religion in China. The focus in this religion is on respect, good conduct, and government service. The founder of this religion, or this particular Chinese philosophy, is buried in this tomb. Question number 1. What type of map is illustrated in this picture? Jay. Good, a political map. Describe China using the theme of relative location. Meredith.
It's located west of the Pacific Ocean, northeast of Africa, south of Mongolia, north of the Indian Ocean, and northeast of Europe, and it's in the northeastern hemisphere.
Good, very good. Now you might not all have the exact same answer, all right? But as long as you gave an answer that describes China's location relative to other countries or bodies of water, that's fine. Okay. What landform divides China into north and south? Chris?
Qinling Mountains.
Good. The Qinling Mountains. Good. Okay, the 2 major rivers that we spoke about that run through China. Jen, give us one.
The Huanghe and the Changjiang.
Okay, she gave us both. The Huanghe River and the Changjiang River. Good. Now, what would be the advantage to living either along the rivers or in the valleys? Dan?
There's fertile soil for farming, and there's trade, so you can trade things to other people.
Good. Okay, the rivers provide fertile soil for farming and transportation for trade. Good. Patrick?
Also fish there.
I can't hear you.
You can also fish.
Okay, perhaps fishing for food. Chris?
They have fertile soil, and they have plenty of water to grow crops.
Okay, good. Fertile soil, plenty of water, good land for growing crops. Meredith?
They can transport themselves on it.
Good. Okay, and transportation. Excellent. Okay. The person buried in this tomb, Kelly?
Confucius.
Confucius, good. Confucius is buried in that tomb? Excellent. Okay, we're ready to
pick up where we left off yesterday, and that's with our graphing. Remember what we did yesterday? That you were going to create a graph which plots the average years of schooling for males and females in your Asian country that you're assigned. You can create any kind of graph you want, a bar graph, a line graph, a circle graph, a little picture graph. Sometimes you see the ones with population, right? It has like half a kid, right? Showing population. So you could do something like that. Your graph must include, of course, a title, the statistics. You must label your graph. It must include the statistics for your assigned Asian country and one other country. You can add as many others as you want, but you must have these two. Yeah, close it up in the corner. There you go, close that up. Okay, open up the hard drive, the little MediaMax guy at the top. Okay, open that up. Okay, click on CD Atlas there.
We would have went to political globe. Contents. Okay, let's pick a country. Type in the name of the country. Indonesia. Education, E.
Oh, wait.
Okay. Go to education. Female.
How many years of education does the average male have in your country?
Male?
Yeah.
Male. Female. We're in female.
Okay.
2.9. 2.9.
And the other country name? Yeah, you got it.
If we do like Laos,
Right.
how do we get Madagascar and Mexico in the same week?
Okay, well maybe one of your axes will be the years, right? So you're going to put your years maybe up this side. And the bottom axis is going to be the countries.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to have maybe Laos here, and then you'll have Madagascar, and what's your other one? Mexico. And maybe you can have one bar representing females that might be pink, and another bar representing males that could be blue. Okay, so you can do it any way you want. You could do a little picture graph, you could do it line graph, like your life expectancy one printed out from the computer. That's up to you. Okay, you can make the decision. Okay, Tom? I think you got it?
Okay, everybody, I'd like to welcome you to the first viewpoints here in your honors class. You've all worked very hard on the research. The first debate today is the United States was justified in creating and enforcing the Platt Amendment. We have our pro side here, we have our con side, and we also have some very special judges with us today. We have Mr. Flood, our social studies supervisor, who is just about to leave us very shortly for retirement, and we also have our new social studies supervisor, Mr. Cohen, and you all know Mr. Coos. Everyone in the back, pay careful attention because you can also learn from this presentation, which will help yours in the future.
Cuba and the U.S. had many conflicts over the years. One of these conflicts was over the Platt Amendment. By instating the Platt Amendment, the U.S. was acting morally and in the best interest of Cuba and its people. The Platt Amendment and the U.S. intervention was brought on by the conflict between Spain and Cuba. Spain became aggressive to Cuban society and angered its people.
The Platt Amendment consisted of 4 articles, or points, to be enforced. First of all, Cuba wouldn't enter into any treaty that could harm its independence. The United States wanted to help Cuba maintain its independent status. Secondly, Cuba couldn't make a debt it wasn't fully capable of repaying. By looking out for Cuba's financial security, the United States was helping them come out of their unsteady economy. Also, the United States reserved the right to intervene on Cuba's behalf when it deemed itself appropriate.
The Platt Amendment protected Cuba from any foreign aggression and aided them against any anarchy. To ensure this, the United States had Marines stationed on Cuba. American missions were also sent to Cuba to untangle electoral difficulties or straighten out financial troubles. Thus, Cuba then became a peaceful and stable government. Cuba enjoyed economic prosperity under the Platt. The United States gave Cuba a special reduction of 20% under the general tariff line of the United States to Cuban products, plus an additional 20 to 40% upon importation into Cuba from the United States.
One of the greatest achievements of the Platt Amendment was to conquer the dreaded yellow fever by U.S. doctors. Among the other accomplishments was the establishment of a sanitation system. Streets and sewers were cleaned, and sanitation facilities to check for and control diseases were installed. Also, numerous public buildings were repaired and roads were built.
Though America did not want Cuba to be a part of its nation, the U.S. government decided that it should make itself a part of the Cuban government. The U.S. forced the Platt Amendment on the Cuban government with the promise that few interventions would take place.
First of all, the United States government intervened on behalf of the revolutionists in April 1898, which precipitated the Spanish-American War. Therefore, the U.S. legislation established conditions for American intervention in Cuba. Some of them were investing heavily in the island's economy, acquiring control of many of its resources, and dispatching troops there. The United States took over the sugar-growing industry and soon wanted to increase the price of sugar.
I know you guys probably didn't get to really a couple of other questions that you wanted to ask, but looking at the time, I think we have to get to the part where we hear from the judges. We'll start with some questions first, and then we'll get to some feedback. Okay? You're doing a great job.
I have two questions, and I'll pose both questions, and then any of you can respond to them. They're very similar. Which of the four aspects to the Platt Amendment that Jenna told us about, which of those four is most justifiable by today's standards? And tell me why you would pick that one. Also, which of the four aspects of the Platt Amendment is the least justifiable? And tell me why you would pick that one.
I think the most justifiable was that Cuba wouldn't enter into any treaty that could harm its independence, because they had just come out of a war in which they were fighting for their independence. So it seems almost ridiculous to have to put that in, because obviously they wouldn't want someone to take over them fully, as the Spanish had done since they had just finished fighting for their independence.
I also think that what she said is very important. But I also think that the sanitation was very, very important, because, as you can see, Cuba and the United States were doing a lot of trade. And if Cuba was full of disease and not sanitary, diseases can be communicated to the United States through trade and through all the products that are going there, through all the workers that are going to take the products there and work on the ships and deal with people in the United States.
I'd like to ask a question. I'd like you to maybe put yourselves in the shoes of the citizens of the United States and Cuba at the time of the Platt Amendment. And I'm thinking of it because we're going through a debate right now in our country about whether the United States should send troops to another part of the world in order to ensure peace. Can you tell me how the citizens of the United States felt at the time about committing first troops to Cuba at the different points when we had to intervene? Or do you think you would have been for or against that?
I think I would have been for it, because if the United States had Cuba, they also had a way to get the Panama Canal. If they didn't have Cuba, the Panama Canal would be almost cut off to them, so it cut off lots of trade. And also, it was good for the American businesses. They made lots of money too.
Let's start taking out two maps on Africa, the political map and the physical features or the topographic map of Africa as we review today. We'll work first with the topographic map. Now, using the computer and our Atlas program in the computer on the CD-ROM, Ron will help us go over some of the physical features of Africa that we need to know for reviewing for this test. So first, the physical features map. Now, on the screen there, let's zoom in and click once. Okay. The region south of the Sahara Desert, the sub-Saharan Africa, would first take into account the areas, and if Ron will point the cursor there, the arrow there, to the Congo Basin region. That is that jungle area, the tropical zone, heavy vegetation, heavy rainfall. It's the topography. There's very few mountains in that area. The major river of this area is the Congo River. Okay. Now, as we move slowly southward, that area there, the Kalahari Basin, the area which would now occupy parts of South Africa, the former Rhodesia, that has the area that we know of, that we associate with the movie The Lion King. This particular region is the Savannah region. Give me some descriptions that would accurately portray the Savannah region. What would we see there?
treeless dry grasslands and there are a few isolated areas of water.
Okay, treeless, with some trees, I mean, don't get the idea that it's a total barren place, but grassland. Now, describe this grassland. Are we talking about nice little areas where we could go play pitch and putt? Shayna?
It's very tall grass.
Okay. Very tall. How tall? 3 inches, 4 inches?
3 feet.
6 feet? Andrea?
Like 3 feet maybe.
3 feet, 6 feet, Ron? Yeah, it's tall grassland, which makes it very easy for animals to hide in. Okay, this is again the area that we would find a lot of big game. Now the problem of the geography of this area is that it can go through cycles. Cycles of extreme drought, cycles of extreme rainfall. Using the computer and the MediaMax program that we have installed in the computer, we can program from a video laser disc, which can hold up to 50,000 individual frames, program any number of a variety of slideshows for the students to view. I happen to have programmed in here a slideshow on Africa, which covers all of African history from the colonial period through to the independence movements. The programs themselves are stored on the computer disk. So all I do is access the programs. The computer disk talks to the Laserdisc machine to display the particular programs that we have. First slide here is a drawing of Dutch settlers in the 1650s. The Dutch were the first to actively pursue colonizing the African continent, although most Europeans had stops. Portuguese, the Dutch, and later the British would have stops along the African coast. One of these stops would be a coaling station, especially during the time of coal and steam engines. Ships would have to refuel, and these coaling stations would be set up along trading ports along the African coast so the ships could refuel on their way to India. Britain and the Dutch, British and the Dutch obviously were battling for control of Africa, especially southern Africa, and the Dutch had succumbed to the...
Paul, it's very interesting to see how completely engrossed the students were in their work. And really, this is only the beginning for using technology in the social studies department. What kind of plans do you have for the future?
Well, we have great plans for the future. First, what you saw in Mr. Saroka's room and Mrs. Zimbicki's room, where students were at the Computer and Technology Center, we are hoping to have one in every one of our social studies classrooms. Right now, that's not happening. And we're looking forward to making sure that the high school is equipped that same way. That's one thing that we're going to do. We would love to see the use of more CDs and laser discs within the curriculum to enhance it. So we'll be looking forward to purchasing and reviewing many more of those to help out our students. And then, of course, once our media centers are equipped with the computers that are necessary to be able to have students come in and really work in the media centers, they're hoping that they will be networked and students will be able to go out on the internet and have internet access to be able to use the research that's out there. For example, the Smithsonian, the Library of Congress, just came out with an entire new series where students can access pictures of Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, or listen to Henry Cabot Lodge make a speech about World War I and its aftermath. And this could be done right from the classroom. And so that kind of internet access would be wonderful. Of course, we have to make sure that we are very careful and that internet access is monitored. But I can see this really making the social studies program come alive. So I see that as a way, and the idea of having the building network so that students in the social studies classes can actually access what's in the library or access periodicals would be a wonderful way to enhance the social studies program and bring the research into the classroom and make it alive for the students.
Well, Paul, I'd like to thank you very much for being here with us today. And I'd also like to commend both you and the entire social studies department for really looking ahead and seeking out new innovative ways of teaching and instructional techniques, because it's certainly to the benefit of our students. To the audience, I'd like to thank you for watching and hope you'll be back with us again next month when we'll be talking about technology as it relates to our integrated language arts program.